of the most profound movements, and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do. Or a head.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The GOP debate hitting below the belt. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to The Bill Press Show for this Friday, March 4th, 2016. As we make it through another week and the 11th, believe it or not, the 11th Republican debate. I'm Igor Volsky of the Center for American Progress Action Fund, sitting in for Bill. As we try to figure out this morning, is it possible? Can anyone, anywhere, take down Donald Trump and prevent him from becoming the 2016 GOP presidential nominee? Did the debate do it? Did Fox News do it? And are we in for a contentious convention? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Your thoughts about what happened last night and your thoughts about what's going to happen in the days ahead as Donald Trump continues to rake up wins, rake up delegates, and that movement that has started a couple of weeks ago, the Never Trump movement, will it grow? And will we see prominent Republicans saying, whatever it takes, we're going to slow Trump down? Joining me here, of course, is the wonderful Bill Press Show crew. Peter Ogburn in the new studio, sitting
Igor.
so close to me. This does feel like a very intimate
We've moved a lot
conversation.
closer. We've grown closer in the new studio, that's for sure.
Jamie Benson running the board. Ray Rogers taking your calls. Good morning at 866-557-7377. And Cyprian Bolding operating all of our cameras and making us look oh so good on TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/Tawkr, Tawkr. Also, we're on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, using the Progressive Voices channel, and of course on your favorite progressive radio station as you make your way to work or you wake up in the morning with a cup of coffee. We're going to have all the news for you this morning, the debate, and so much more. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. How about this story? This story is crazy. We go to South Carolina, where a teacher was teaching her class, and she got called away to go to a quick meeting, so she left. And she left her phone on her desk.
Always
the teacher
a mistake.
at Union County High School, her name is Leanne Arthur, she was patrolling the halls very quickly, and a 16-year-old male student got up, got her phone, and turns out that she had nude photos on there that she had taken for her husband.
Right.
She didn't send out to anybody, but they were on her phone. The teen then took photos of that phone, of her naked pictures, with his phone, and then he shared them among classmates. The teacher has been fired. The teacher has been fired. There's now a petition to get her hired back because they say she didn't do anything wrong. But the school says she should have had her phone more secure. She should have had a password or the code on her phone, and this never would have happened. So they are standing by their firing of this teacher in Union County High School.
Does everybody here have their phones password protected?
That's what I was going to say. Everybody on this show knows you got to lock that thing
There was
down.
a time that it wasn't all that. You didn't have to necessarily do that.
I didn't have a
but that
password
time
for a
has
very long time.
long gone.
Yeah.
You have got to have a password. Congratulations to LinkedIn CEO Jeff Weiner. He got a $14 million stock bonus for LinkedIn doing very well, right? But here's the thing. Their stock prices have not been very good. And they do have this large group of employees. So he said what he wanted to do is take that $14 million bonus and distribute it among all of the employees at LinkedIn. So he's not going to take it. He's not going to take that $14 million bonus. He's going to split it up and give it out to everybody within the company.
And how many employees are there at LinkedIn?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. I don't know how many. I don't know how many
if
they
I
have.
apply for a job today.
Yeah, right.
Are you still eligible?
I don't think you would be eligible. No, I'm sorry. I don't think that you would be eligible. And if you go to Vermont, they have a local craft brewer called Zero Gravity Brewing, and they have a new beer to commemorate Bernie Sanders. It's called the Bernie Weiss. Now, there is a beer called a Berliner Weiss, and they say that it's brewed in this style. It's a slightly sour and forward-thinking beer, is what they say. And again, you can get it in Vermont at Zero Gravity Brewing. I have to say, by the way, I saw Evan McMorris Santora, who's been up with the Bernie campaign, been in Vermont. He came back to D.C., and he actually had some of these.
Oh, how did you?
No. I just saw it on social media. I wasn't actually there.
He didn't share any with you.
No.
So the other thing about Evan is he tweeted a picture of a Bernie marijuana piece.
Yeah, the Bernie
branded
bowl. The Bernie bowl. Yeah.
So I think we have the ice cream, we have the beer. I think we also need a marijuana strain.
There's Bernie ice cream.
We got to have a strain.
That's a good point.
You know, Evan's very busy on the trail.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy.
With the weed and the ice cream and the beer.
By the way, Evan, the only guest host of this show I've never met.
Is that right? You never met him?
Never met him.
Is that true?
We've never spoken.
Come on.
I don't know if he knows of me. I know of him. I don't know. Maybe you should facilitate an introduction.
No kidding.
After the election.
After
the election when he's actually here in town. Yeah.
866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. You know, when I say below the belt, you wouldn't think, and if you didn't watch the 11th debate, if you're just waking up and you're kind of looking for the headlines, this next moment that Jamie's going to play for you really encapsulates where the Republican Party is today and where the conversation has devolved to in the 2016 race. Now, you'll remember right a couple of weeks ago, as we were entering Super Tuesday, Marco Rubio made the comment that Trump has small hands, and having small hands means something else. And so Trump took the opportunity last night to respond to that.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Which, of course, led to the best CNN breaking news alert of the night. Donald Trump defends the size of his penis.
Folks.
So that was the actual Chiron last night?
That was a breaking news alert text last night.
Like the word penis was used.
The word penis in the text.
That's incredible.
I gotta be honest. If I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't stay up and watch the debate last night, but I did listen to some of it this morning while I was preparing, and I woke up and I was reading all the think pieces. My timeline is all like everybody had to write a story about Donald Trump's penis. Like I probably
really
saw,
a political reporter's dream,
right? I mean, but like all these serious articles from like people who normally cover politics, just for politics. I read that the words Donald Trump penis probably 15 times already this morning. It's
when we think we've reached the apex of hashtag best election ever,
right?
We just keep going up.
What's next? I really don't know what's next.
Well, as Dan Savage said, it gets better.
It's only got to get better.
And it's only going to get better. The question, of course, is, does any of this matter? Who are the voters who will look past all of the craziness. And it wasn't just this moment. Let's just give this a little more flavor here. You had this awkward exchange between Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, where Trump would refer to Marco as Little Marco, because the dynamic last night was you had Trump in the middle, and on each side was Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz going at him. They didn't go after each other. They tried to chip away at the Donald. And so it led to this really bizarre dynamic where they were calling each other by nicknames.
Don't worry about it, little Marco. I will.
All right, well, let's hear Big Don. Donald.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, little Marco.
Gentlemen,
you ought to show up.
Gentlemen, you gotta do better than those.
Oh, Jesus.
Little Marco and Big Donald.
Donald. Big D.
Oh, okay.
I love that he stumbled on that.
I mean, this is all from last night. You'd think we're playing some Saturday Night Live skit here, but this all actually happened at the Fox News debate.
But you know what's so funny to me about the debate is, like, especially Marco Rubio has abandoned whatever plan he had, right, to beat Donald Trump originally, and he's full on down in the mud, eating from the same trough as Donald Trump. I mean, he did make the joke about the size of Donald Trump's manhood. So as much as crazy as it is for Donald Trump to stand in there and defend the size of his penis, it's because somebody called it. It's because Marco Rubio went there. Right.
As a man who started his campaign by saying he's going to unite the Republican Party, he's going to bring the party into the 21st century, this is what his campaign has descended to. This, talking about Donald Trump's penis. And he's doing everything his supporters want him to do. He's tougher. He is directly going after Donald Trump. He's trying to get under his skin at every debate, at every town hall. He's trying to kind of break away at the Trump, but nothing is sticking. Nothing is working. What a lot of people said last night is both Rubio and Cruz, who went after Trump, looked desperate, looked needy, looked like they needed to score some points. But it wasn't sticking. And it wasn't sticking because Donald Trump, in the way he's been doing this entire campaign, can miraculously, even though he's always down in the mud and always calling people names, when it comes to responding to attacks, he has this tone about him that just sets him above the fray, that just says, you guys could bicker, but let me tell you what I really think. And the way you know that the Republican Party is freaking out, the way you know that they're really trying to go after Trump and trying to break them down, is because last night Fox News was live checking Donald Trump live at the debate. Twice they tried to confront him with past statements to point out that he had flip-flopped, that he had changed his positions, and to see when he's backed in a corner how he reacts. The most effective moment here was Megyn Kelly, one of the debate moderators. She played 3 different clips for Donald on refugees, on Afghanistan, showing him where he changed his position in a matter of hours, in a matter of days. And the audience was left wondering, maybe you have him cornered. What is he going to say now that he's confronted with those changes? How is he going to react? And let's just play how he responded.
But I've never seen a successful person who wasn't flexible, who didn't have a certain degree of flexibility. You have to have a certain degree of flexibility.
To me, this sounds like an answer a regular person would give. Yeah. This is how we all think about politics. Yeah. Most of us, most voters don't think in these rigid categories of you have to have this strong ideological position of you're going to build a wall that's this tall and you're going to get all those immigrants out.
Yeah.
We think, what can we get done? That's how we go about in our everyday lives. That's how we think about the world. And this answer really, to me, humanized Donald Trump, made him seem even more real, even less like a politician. And frankly, if I was just watching that isolated moment, I would say, I can relate to this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
This guy's
It
like
was brilliant.
me.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And I have to say, on your point about how Fox sort of fact checked him during the debate, they didn't do that with any other candidate. They haven't done that with any other candidate.
And past debates they did, but not tonight.
Frankly, I don't think that they treated Donald. Look, I hardly have any sympathy for Donald Trump, but I don't think that they treated him very fairly at the Fox debate. I think that they came out guns blazing, ready to take down Donald Trump at the debate. They saw it as their opportunity to put Trump back in their place, right, or back in his place, right, and not in the as front runner. But what we've learned is that just doesn't work. And when you say that that's how he responded to it, that's how anybody would want to respond to it, or that's how anybody would, like, they could see that and be totally fine with that answer. So he only gained support last night, I think.
So
he won that debate. Let's be clear. I think he won another debate. Yeah.
It doesn't work because Trump can just pivot back to, I'm a real guy who's just trying to make America great again. So that doesn't work.
It's working. It's working on you.
That doesn't work. And the question is, what will it take? Who can take him down? Certainly you saw last night Mitt Romney try to go after Donald Trump, the man who sought out his endorsement in the 2012 presidential election, who flew to Trump, stood next to Trump, and said this when Trump endorsed him in 2012. Here he is, Mitt Romney, after I think he skipped some big event.
He did.
Remember, to go see Donald Trump. Let's play audio of Trump endorsing Romney and then Romney responding to Trump. That was the dynamic in 2012.
It's my honor, real honor, and privilege to endorse Mitt Romney. I've gotten...
It means a great deal to me to have the endorsement of Mr. Trump and people across this country who care about the future of America.
And you'll remember that photograph when Romney stepped off the plane to go meet Donald Trump. Trump had pulled his Trump plane up so that the photo that the press corps would get was going to be Romney in the shadow of the Trump. That's what the campaign thought would help them. That Trump's name and what Trump had stood for in 2012, which was questioning the legitimacy of President Obama, suggesting that maybe he wasn't truly born in the United States, suggesting that maybe he didn't get into college based on his merits, but because of his race or because of some other factor, that this is the guy they sought to elevate. And now they're surprised. They can't slow that down. It's a can of worms they opened up, and they can't get them back into the can.
One quick thing, because I know we got to take a break. Mitt Romney tweeted yesterday, if Trump had said 4 years ago the things he says today about the KKK, Muslims, Mexicans, and disabled, I would not have accepted his endorsement, which is bullcrap.
Absolute bullcrap. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. What will it take to prevent Donald Trump from getting the GOP nomination? Your calls.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour on this post-debate Friday morning where we ask, what will it take, who will it take to tear down the great Donald Trump, prevent him from becoming the party's nominee? Mitt Romney, who sought the endorsement of Trump in 2012 and who in some ways enabled his rise, tried to do that yesterday and seemed to fail. John McCain, I was going to say Mitch McConnell, but John McCain, the 2008 presidential candidate, also issued a statement saying, no Trump. But he enabled Sarah Palin, who predated Trump and allowed for the rise of Trump. So who's the right messenger here? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show continues. I'm Igor Volsky from the Center for American Progress Action Fund. As we ask, who will it take to stop Donald Trump from winning the GOP presidential nomination? On Twitter, Phil says the only people who can stop the Trumps are sensible voters. Too bad there aren't enough of them in the GOP primaries. A good point, Phil.
Yeah, that is a good point.
I want to break this down a little bit because I think there's some digging to do here as to why exactly this isn't working. Because I think you kind of have a multi-pronged problem. By the way, your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Problem number one. Too late, guys. Donald Trump kicked off his campaign with a lot of hate against Mexicans, against immigrants, against women, and Republicans had a real opportunity to say, this won't work in our party, this shouldn't play with our voters, this is only hurting America. And they didn't. They stood silent for way too long. You had the RNC chair, the Republican Party committee chair, saying it's great to have this diversity, this excitement in the party. They waited too long. They waited too long to say, this is wrong, we're not going to stand for it. That's problem number one. Problem number two, and you saw this even last night on the Republican stage, the very last question, when each one of them was asked, would you support the eventual Republican nominee even if that nominee was Trump? And every single one said, yes, I would. So you can't on one hand call Donald Trump a great con artist who is just enriching himself at the cost of everybody else, and on the other hand say, oh, I'll support him. It doesn't ring true. You're lying on either side of that equation. So voters don't believe when you say that there's something wrong with Trump. They think you're digging only to enrich yourself.
So when Bill is here, he often says, and he's been saying for a long, long time, by the way, that for Republicans to defeat Trump, and this is back when they had, 17 nominees, all of these nominees are going to have to coalesce around one candidate, be it Marco Rubio, be it Jeb, be it whoever at the time. They needed to coalesce around one candidate and say, we are throwing all of our weight behind this candidate. And if that had happened, I think that you would have that candidate beating Donald Trump now, number one. Number two, Bill also said that every single candidate, if you were serious about beating Donald Trump, would have to say, I cannot vote for Donald Trump. Can't do it. And as you just pointed out, to this day, even last night, as this election has gotten nastier than ever, every single one of them said they would vote for Donald Trump.
And let's be clear that this is a problem
that's just not going to work. That just is not going to work, by the way. Like, you cannot say how bad of a guy he is, and then you're going to vote with him, because people see right through that.
Because if you're going to vote for him, then I can vote for him.
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't I do it, right?
I mean, good grief.
The John Kasich, who we're not talking much about because,
Who?
Right, exactly. Didn't have the greatest moments. He's, of course, the Ohio governor, probably out of that field.
But Igor, he's going to win Ohio.
He might win Ohio. But out of that field, probably the most qualified to actually be president, although, the guy has some really scary conservative policies when it comes to women's health. He just defunded Planned Parenthood, and all of his budget stuff is sounds a lot like Paul Ryan, looks a lot like Paul Ryan's policies, but we'll hold off on that for a moment. He, to me, had some of the smartest analysis last night, echoing a column that David Brooks wrote a couple of weeks ago, and somebody pointed this out to me on Twitter, and that is that for such a long time, Republicans have told their voters, we won't compromise, we don't have to compromise, and we can still get what we want. Now, when those politicians failed to get what they want because they didn't compromise, voters elected non-establishment, anti-politics candidates who promised the same thing, promised them the sky of repealing Obamacare and getting rid of Dodd-Frank. And when those politicians also failed because, hey, they had no political experience, and again, you can't get anything done without playing politics, as Donald Trump pointed out last night, calling it flexibility. When those lawmakers failed, voters voted them out, but became even angrier at Washington. And now you're at a stage where voters are angry at a lot of the Tea Party candidates who kept on promising to get rid of Obamacare and never did. But they've been whipped up into the sense of, you don't need any flexibility, you don't need to work with anybody else, and thus you now have the rise of Trump. Somebody who can on one hand claim, I'm just going to get this done because of who I am, because I'm this great successful person, I'm just going to get it done, we're going to do it together. But in the same breath, the appeal here is that he does suggests that he has a lot of flexibility, that he can work with a lot of these candidates and a lot of these politicians to actually accomplish the conservative dream book of policies that they want to see enacted. So you're at a point where conservative voters are looking at who can actually get it done because they've had the sky promised to them. And Trump is that rare candidate who can combine pie in the sky promises with this sense and authority that he can actually realize on some of those dreams. It's very, very fascinating. He's probably the only man in the GOP who can pull this off with their voters.
He also has a very, very nice penis.
If we're being honest.
I mean,
if we're being honest.
No problems with that department. I just noticed how big your hands are, Igor.
Oh.
My goodness. Well, you know.
No complaints.
I mean, look, the whole thing, all of yesterday led up to one big thing for me, and that is that Donald Trump is still going to be the nominee, right? Despite what Mitt Romney said, despite Donald Trump saying he's flexible on issues and will change on issues if he needs to, despite everybody attacking him at the debate, there's absolutely no reason to believe that Donald Trump is not going to be the nominee.
Now here, let's play a little sound of what Mitt Romney tried to do last night. He gave his big speech in Utah, the first one, real address since 2012, trying to take down Donald Trump. Now, as you listen to this, you'll remember that Romney has the timing of a kidney stone here and how he delivers these lines. But here he is describing Donald Trump as a phony.
Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University.
And despite the fact that he has a nice penis, we can't vote for him for president. No, but you know what Mitt did? Even in that speech, Mitt never said, I will not vote for Donald Trump.
And he never had a moment of self-reflection.
No.
To say that I shouldn't have given Trump that platform that I gave him in 2012. I shouldn't have sought him out. And that's really the problem here, is that none of these guys who are now scrambling to try to take Trump down see or publicly admit any fault in why this is happening to their party.
That tweet that I read earlier from Romney where he talked about, if he had been saying these things about the KKK and Hispanics and all this, I would. It's such a lie. Like, when he accepted the endorsement of Donald Trump, it was in the middle. It was peak froth of the birther situation. Donald Trump was running around saying that Barack Obama, a man elected president of the United States, was not eligible to be president and refused to accept that he was actually an American, that he was African.
And let's be clear. The reason why Mitt Romney sought out Donald Trump's endorsement isn't because Donald Trump has some tremendous policy acumen and ideas, but precisely because Donald Trump speaks to the voters and excites the voters who believe in the KKK stuff, who believe in the white supremacy stuff. Even back then, it was very clear that the appeal of the Trump, the appeal of the Palin, are the voters in the Republican base who don't think Obama is a legitimate president because he's a black man, because they think he was born somewhere else. That's who the Romney campaign felt they needed to win. They needed to bring out their base, and Donald Trump spoke to their base. So this idea that, we did not know that this who Trump, we are now finding out who he is absolute baloney. This is who Trump has been for years. And by the way, Trump's response to Mitt Romney was really something. Speaking in Jamie's hometown here, Donald Trump.
Congratulations to Jamie.
Congratulations. Finally got him
proud.
there.
Yeah, very proud.
Here he is describing Trump as a choke artist.
I was very tough. I said, he can't run, he can't run. He was going to run. He can't run. Then I started saying, look, we got to keep him out because he's going to lose. He's a choke artist.
And the killer line from Trump in really tearing Romney down and inoculating himself from anything Romney had to say about him.
I backed him. You can see how loyal he is. He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees. He was begging.
There you go. There you go.
2016 election, anything's game.
There you go.
What in the hell?
Welcome, folks. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377.
Oh my God.
Oy vey is all we have to say. Oy vey. At BP Show, at Igor Volsky, give us a shout. What did you think of last night's debate? Were you even watching? Did you turn it off? We'll be right back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. There will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
48 minutes after the hour, we return to talk about what was a tremendously disgusting debate, because I just learned, I missed this last night, there was some kind of booger situation with Ted Cruz and a thing on his lip, and he ate it, and I don't know. Peter's been showing pictures and videos of this, and I've just been trying to hide under my desk here. Okay, let's not.
It's like a maggot. It's like a maggot came crawling out of his mouth while he was speaking.
God, 866-55-PRESS.
It's really unsettling.
557-7377.
But then he ate it. He swallowed it while he was on stage. It's like it's there, hanging out for a little while, and then he realizes it and he just sucks it in. Like he just gobbles it up.
It's like I'm on the set of Morning Joe or something. Adam Wallner is the 2016 reporter for National Journal. Adam, good morning. I apologize you have to enter the show in this context.
Yeah. Good morning. What a way to start your morning here. This is really ideal.
Rise and shine.
We haven't even talked about Donald Trump's penis yet.
You're right. Well, I figured you guys had already covered that in the first part of the show. I figured
we actually
just
have.
move on, right?
Yeah, we actually have.
Well, I was going to ask you to fact check that claim, but
oh dear God, that is way above my pay grade.
Way above. So, Adam, listen. The question I've been trying to get an answer to for the last couple of days is twofold. One is, who can stop Trump from getting the nomination? You know, Romney tried. Some of these establishment folks are trying. And the second is, are Republicans even really interested in doing that? Because all of them last night said, we'll vote for this guy.
Right. I really do think it probably is too late to really stop Trump at this point. And you know, one thing that became abundantly clear yesterday, you know, between Mitt Romney's speech, kind of when he called for sort of strategic voting, you know, Kasich in Ohio, Rubio in Florida, really the only hope is not so much to lift Rubio or Kasich or Cruz to get enough delegates by the time we get to the convention, but just to keep Trump under that kind of 1237 number. And, you know, the best case scenario now is a contested convention. But even that, you know, if you get to Cleveland and Trump doesn't, you know, he's the leader in the delegates, he doesn't quite have enough. I mean, to try and wrestle that away from him, I mean, that would just only, you know, inflame, you know, Trump supporters more. So, you know, I think, you know, at this point, you know, that their best case may be to just find some way to try and, you know, make him as strong of a general election candidate as possible, you know, as tough of a task as that would be. And it was pretty incredible to hear last night at that debate. You know, for the past week and a half, we've been hearing from, you know, from Rubio, from Cruz, from Kasich, from other establishment Republicans that Trump is a con man. You know, he's not going to win a general election. And yet at the end, they all said that they would support him anyway if he was the nominee.
It's like, Trump's a con man, but he's our con man.
Yeah.
Really.
Right.
Look, the other thing that just really kind of bugged me is, why not have Paul Ryan do it? Why not have someone with kind of greater influence in the party? Who cares about Mitt Romney? I mean, this guy, who cares about him? Why Mitt Romney? I mean, do people really think there are Republican voters out there who said, I was gonna vote for Trump, but then I heard the speech by Mitt Romney, and Romney hasn't convinced anybody of anything ever when it comes to politics. Why Mitt Romney? Who else do you think should, if the Republicans were serious about going after Trump, who's the best messenger for that?
Right, I think that's a great question. You know, talking to a few Republicans yesterday after that speech, you know, a lot of them who are, you know, more establishment, more mainstream Republicans, were kind of questioning why Mitt Romney, you know, decided now to be giving this speech. You know, I think it is, especially in the short term, I think it's only going to serve to fire up Trump supporters more than kind of the Never Trump movement. But, you know, he is, you know, probably the closest thing the Republican Party has right now to an elder statesman. You know, Paul Ryan, you know, certainly, you know, would be an effective messenger there. But, you know, I just have to wonder, you know, given his position as Speaker of the House, he would potentially have to work with a President Trump down the road in a way that Mitt Romney wouldn't. And I also think that, you know, one speech also isn't going to do it. You know, I think if Mitt Romney or any of the other guys really want to have a long-lasting impact on Donald Trump, they're going to have to do this repeatedly. It can't just be a one-off thing. But more than anything, I think, you know, Mitt Romney is only serving to fire up, you know, Trump's base even more than uniting any sort of anti-Trump movement.
I think you nailed it. Like, I don't know who else could have come out and done that. When you look
what about George W? Where's George W? I mean, he is still a greater influence in the party than Romney.
That's a very good point.
He can go support his brother on a dying campaign, but he can't go out there. And he has the greatest platform for this too, saying, you know, we can be a real compassionate conservative party. Right?
That's a good point.
Where's W? Where is W?
I don't know why they wouldn't use George W. Bush.
Because they're not that serious. It's not that serious, right? They're looking at the polls, and they're saying it's not that serious. Adam, very quickly.
Yeah, I think, you know, this is just totally uncharted territory. You know, the Republican Party is clearly kind of splitting into two separate factions right now, whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump. And I think, even the most experienced political hands are just proceeding with caution right now because they don't know exactly what's going to happen over these next 2 weeks.
Hands, you just said hands, really, Adam Woolner. Adam Woolner, 2016 reporter for National Journal, at Adam Woolner, nationaljournal.com. Adam, thank you so much. I apologize for all of this. We'll be back in a moment. Bill Press Show continues.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show on this fun Friday morning. We're going over what happened in the debate, and we're looking over at CNN right now. The Chiron reads, CNN repeatedly mentioned in GOP debate, and you have 5 people on the screen analyzing this very important development that a CNN poll was mentioned in the debate and a CNN clip. This is the state of media.
Congratulations.
You wonder, why is Trump doing so well? Why are we not talking about real issues? Because this right here, they're doing an entire block, an entire segment on CNN.
And the countdown clock. We got the countdown clock.
And the countdown clock to something. I don't know what they're counting for.
It's coming.
Oy vey. All right. Alina Schneider, she's the campaign reporter for Politico. She's going to join us next to talk all things 2016. Stay with us. Hour 2 coming your way.
This is the Bill Press Show.
guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet. Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Who can stop the Trump? Question of the morning, question of the night, as Republicans squared off in the 11th GOP debate, and Fox News moderators Megyn Kelly, Britt Baer and Chris Wallace tried to stomp Donald Trump, but failed for the most part. What does it mean for the general election, for a race against Bernie or Hillary? We'll get into all of that the second hour of the Bill Press Show for this Friday, March 4th, 2016. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. I am not Bill Press. I am Igor Volsky of the Center for American Progress Action Fund, sitting in for Bill and taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Of course, at BP Show on Twitter, at Igor Volsky on Twitter. If you're listening to us on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, using the Progressive Voices channel, and on your favorite progressive radio station, you can also be watching us on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV.
Sure enough.
YouTube.com/TawkrTV. And for the visuals, we can thank Cyprian Bolding running all of these new, well, old, but more. I feel like there's more video cameras in this newly remodeled studio on Capitol Hill. Peter Ogburn, sitting here with me in this very intimate setting.
We're very close. I can see how large your hands are.
Oh, very large hands. Jamie Benson. Show us your hands, Jamie, on the Jamie cam here. There you go.
Jamie's got large hands.
To be fair, your hands look kind of small over here, from here.
Oh.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
Well, Ray Rogers taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Hands. It's come down to hands, folks.
Hashtag hands.
By the way,
Hashtag catch these hands.
There's no better way. We got it. It's a new hour. There's a new audience probably here who haven't heard the clip from last last night about the hands.
Let's do it.
I feel like we just got to give folks a little refresher course. Here's what happened last night after Marco Rubio last week talked about Donald Trump's hands and suggested that they're not very large hands, meaning something else might not be a little large. Here's Trump responding to that.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee.
Guarantee you there's no problem.
Good.
No problem at all. Well, listen, we're going to get into the hands, but then we're going to get into the policy that the hands wrote.
Oh, you're going to catch these hands.
All that coming up the second hour of the Bill Press Show. Plus, in the second half of the hour, Elena Schneider, the campaign reporter for Politico, will join us to talk about the 2016 race on both sides of the aisle. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Congratulations to Stella. She's 3 years old. She is a sheepdog in Napa, California. Yes, she is a sheepdog. She looks after sheep and chickens at a Napa farm, and she just had some puppies.
Oh, finally.
She had more than just a couple puppies.
Oh.
She had 17 puppies. That is a record for the state of California. The vet told them on the spot that they set the record for the state. Normally, they say 6 to 8 puppies is normal, but 17 is what Stella had. All the puppies are doing just fine, and the mother is doing just fine as well, so congratulations to Stella. 17 puppies at one go,
Speaking of puppies, Ray, this morning, we were coming in this morning, she said, you should get another dog. She said, you should get a third dog.
A third dog?
And I can make invitations for your dog, to, like a dog party. I said a third dog. A third dog, please.
A third dog is
a third
a
dog,
lot.
too many. I mean, there's 17, so there's some availability, but
did you
don't
see
want another one.
that episode of Broad City where they had the dog wedding? You should have a dog wedding.
Oh,
have a dog.
that would
The dogs
be
got
adorable.
married. Yeah,
Ray,
you have a
dog wedding. Is
dog
she there?
wedding.
Is she there?
You
Dog
have a
wedding.
dog wedding.
She's into it.
All right.
You know, Disney has a new movie coming out. It's called Zootopia. It's about, believe it or not, animals at a zoo.
Yeah, I hate animals in the zoo. It's not. I don't know.
What a segue
How do we
from
go
dog
from-
What a
Anyway. I
segue
only
from
like
dog
dogs. I
wedding
only
to
like
I
dogs,
hate animals.
But I don't want dogs
He said
in the
I
zoo. I
hate
don't want
animals.
dogs in the zoo. You walk through the zoo, it smells so bad. These animals in their cages. Ugh.
Hard disagree. The zoo is the greatest. I love the zoo.
It is kind of depressing. He's got a point.
Oh, the zoos are a little depressing, but I do like to hang out at the zoo. Anyway, this new movie is all about animals that act like people. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Right? But
original concept.
Disney is marketing this movie to a very unique group of consumers. Furries.
Oh, hey
BuzzFeed's
now.
Katie Natopoulos has actually found out that one marketing agency is reaching out and advertising the movie on the furry meetup group.
Oh, are you on that group? Is that how you got that? Is that how you got that invite?
No.
Interesting.
If you don't know what a furry is, it's people who dress up as animals for sexual purposes. This is sort of their kink. But this group has gone on Fur Life, which is like a meetup site for furries, and told them to take pictures of them in their fur suits and put it on Twitter and the Instagram, and even use the movie hashtag. So they're trying to get it out there.
And you know, if furries or furryism made its way into the GOP debate, nobody'd be surprised.
No.
Now
At
we're
this
furries.
point, no.
I mean, we're on our way to furries.
And one of the highest profile transgendered Republicans, Caitlyn Jenner, came out and she said that she wants to be Ted Cruz's trans ambassador. As Gawker says, this is almost like hearing a seal wax ecstatic about their new shark buddy. But this is actually true. She is very Republican, and Ted Cruz is very anti-trans. So she said that she thinks she can help talk to Ted Cruz about the trans community and the LGBT community and sort of enlighten him and sort of be his ambassador.
Well, if anyone can do it, it is Caitlyn Jenner.
I guess so.
Can you imagine the faces Ted Cruz would make in that meeting?
The two of them
We'd have
together
memes for days.
Would be amazing. Yeah, Ted Cruz would absolutely just... Because, like, he knows that there's a possible vote there, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, she's a Republican.
Limited.
Right, but she's a Republican. There's a base of Republicans who look up to Caitlyn
Yes.
Jenner. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You got to be nice, but at the
But
same time...
those people would never vote for Cruz. I mean, for all kinds of other reasons, I think.
She says she.
Although he had a very kind of interesting answer to on the kind of all of these suite of issues, LGBT issues, saying leave it to the states.
Yeah.
Didn't go as hard as he could have.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go.
I don't know what's going to happen.
You know, I feel like we're an hour or two here, and I feel like this is the Howard Stern show here. I feel like we're talking about hands, we're talking about furries. I mean, what kind of show are we? What kind of show are we here?
Yeah.
All we need is like a purple couch. We need to dim the lights.
Look, this is the news.
I need some shades.
This is the news. We only follow where the news takes us.
That's right. Unbelievable. But listen, I in particular, give the media a hard time about always focusing on hands, always focusing on all of these comments that don't really get into the heart of the campaign, don't get into the heart of the issues, don't get into the heart of what voters are going to be voting on. So I do want to spend some time talking about actual policy, because yesterday, this didn't come up in the debate, shocker, but yesterday, Donald Trump did release his health care plan. Now, for a long time, he has been saying, look, it's going to be great. I'm going to repeal Obamacare, and it's going to be great. We're going to replace it with something terrific. It's going to be terrific. It's going to be great. And so he released a 2-pager for what this great, terrific... Is that good? That's not a good imitation. Can you do a little Trump here for me?
It's going to be a great plan. You're going to love this plan. It's going to be a wonderful plan. Everyone's going to be taken care of that needs to be taken care of.
It's a hybrid Bernie Trump.
It's a little hybrid. I'm going to be honest. I don't do a great Trump, but full
it's fine.
disclosure.
It's good. It works.
Listen, you're going to have a lot of time to perfect your Trump. So
I know.
Keep working on it. But you look at the plan, and first of all, when I saw he had a plan, I was like, well, this is progress. Well, this is good. We're getting somewhere here. But the plan, to break it down for you, works like this. You would repeal Obamacare. You would allow insurers to sell policies all across the country. You would let people open health savings accounts and let them use those in greater ways than they can now. And that's about it when it comes to a Trump great plan. It reads like really any other Republican healthcare proposal that would take away the coverage Americans have now. By the way,
go ahead.
Speaking about healthcare, yesterday word came down that 20 million people now have Obamacare.
We should talk about that. Yeah,
20 million people are now enrolled in Obamacare, which is really extraordinary. That means that more than 90% of Americans now have health care insurance. 20 million people. And so on the day that that's the case, and 20 million people in a way that is really tremendous, because you have constituencies and demographics, African Americans and Latinos, who are disproportionately uninsured, now have insurance in far greater numbers. They saw their uninsurance rate plummet by 50% in those communities. It's really quite something. It's really an accomplishment that, lots of people have fought over and tried to tear down. But 20 million people may also be a reason why they didn't talk about Donald Trump's plan last night, because, hey, you're not going to take coverage away realistically from that kind of population. Jessica from Caribou, Maine. Oh, I wonder why there's a Maine caller on the line. I see. Thank you,
Jessica's a good friend.
Oh, Jessica, good morning.
She called all the way from Baraboo.
Good morning. Yeah, it's caucus weekend, and, well, healthcare. I got to tell you, I grew up in a Republican household, saw the light, and kind of ran in the other direction. But I have a brother who's a big Trump supporter, and I've explained to him, and he's like, he hates Obamacare, and I call it the Affordable Care Act. And he's got his daughter, who is 24, and she's out of school, but she works in a restaurant where there's no health insurance, is still on his health insurance from work. And I'm like, yeah, you do get a benefit from it because Erin is covered and she's had serious medical issues all her life. No, I was like, Kevin, do you realize what would have happened the day she finished school? The same thing that happened to our son. At 12:01 that morning, he was done off our health insurance. When our daughter graduated a couple of years later, she was at least covered while she was working a contract job until she got a job that paid benefits for a year and a half after she got out of college. It's like, that's one of several things. They said, your wife gets her annual exam every year because it's covered 100%. You get an annual exam because it's covered 100%. And he is just like, I don't want to pay for that for anybody else. That's it. We're done. We have to get rid of it. Like, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And the thing that surprised me, so I tweeted out, I made a really cool infographic. If anyone hasn't seen it, just go over to @Igor It's a lot of smiley faces saying 20 million covered. And the response I got, Jessica, was actually similar to how the Obama haters in your family responded. And that is, well, of course it's mandatory. Of course they're going to have coverage. Or the deductibles are so high, I still can't afford coverage. Both of which, valid points. The deductibles should be lower. And there is a mandate which actually brings young people and healthy people into the pool and lowers premiums for everybody else. But I do wonder, what will it take for people to kind of walk around and say, hey, 20 million people covered is a big, big deal?
Well, up here it's because they're all the other people in the world. They're not up here in northern Maine. And I can assure you, even though there are people who are now covered, they'll never admit to it because that would mean they'd have to say the president did something right.
Yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for this law to not be Obamacare, to be just plain health care. Yeah. We're on our way to it, but it's really going to take some time. So back to Trump's plan, because really, we've got to talk about some policy here. In the 7 o'clock hour. Nothing better to wake up to than to hear about how terrific and grand Trump's plan is.
Well, but it does represent something interesting here, because this whole election cycle, Trump has, for the most part, gotten away with really outlining any kind of policy plan. It's been, I'm sure that you saw where John Oliver eviscerated Donald Trump on his show, where he shows, like, he says this, but he's also said this. He said this, but he's also said this on a multitude of issues, right? But so, like, when you actually look at the policy, there's not a lot there. So the fact that he's actually putting things on paper with his hands.
With his hands.
With his very big hands, with his nice hands, great hands. It's a big deal, and it's worth talking about.
It's worth talking about, and it's worth talking about it in terms of how it impacts people. What happens to the 28-year-old diabetic man who now loses coverage under Trump's plan, loses the Obamacare coverage, has a pre-existing condition, and has to go out into the individual unregulated insurance market and find a policy? That policy will be more expensive if he's even offered a policy. Or what happens to a single mother in Florida or Illinois who has Medicaid now because of the Medicaid expansion in Obamacare? That's taken away from her. And where does she go? How much does she pay? Or what happens to the 62-year-old who's just about to qualify for Medicare, who maybe lost his or her job and now has to find a policy that's going to be really expensive because nobody wants to cover a 62-year-old because they're much more likely to use healthcare. When you take all that away from Obamacare, when you repeal all of that and you leave people at the mercy of insurers, my oh my, you're going back to the dark old days of if you really need coverage, if you really need health care, you either can't afford it or they simply won't insure you. Those are the days that Donald Trump, that Republicans want to bring us back to, and that's what we need to talk about. How does this policy, how do these ideas affect and impact real people? Yeah, hands, yeah, this, yeah, that. But look, there's a real danger here that somebody like Trump is going to get in there and undo the 20 million. Or try to undo the 20 million, or weaken the 20 million, and bring us back to a time where you're on your own. You're on your own, you're left without any kind of safety net, and good luck to you. And people like Trump and his friends are going to be fine because they have a lot of money, but you're not going to be. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. I'm Igor Volsky, sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
28 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show. By the way, CNN Chiron, as we were coming back to the show, could vulgar debate tarnish the GOP brand?
Yeah.
Oh, what a question. Could it? Has it? Yeah, but with who? Will it tarnish it with general election voters? That's the question we're going to ask Elena Schneider, campaign reporter for Politico. She's coming up next. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show rolls along on this Friday, March 4th, 2016, as we try to look past the hands and the 11th GOP debate and the little Marco and Big Donald and all that craziness.
Wait, we can't talk about that anymore?
The hands. You want to talk about hands some more?
I thought that's what we were here for.
Yeah, are we just not talking about Donald Trump and his penis and his hand size?
All right, Jamie, play it. They're
We
asking
have to,
for
right?
it.
Like,
They're asking for it. Let's just hear it one more time.
That's what America's waking up to.
Just one more time. The silence I thought would introduce
He
it.
referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I
Guarantee.
Congratulations to Donald Trump.
You know that there are some reporters somewhere looking into this, asking women who have had relations with Donald Trump. You know this is happening. I can't be the only one with this idea.
Release the tax records, right? Right, for Donald Trump.
Yes.
Release the birth certificate. Release the nudes of Donald Trump so we can back it up.
We gotta know.
America must know.
I mean, we're only one step away from like Ted Cruz saying that.
Pretty much.
Really, we're almost there. Elena
he
Schneider
did open up the subject, so, you know.
Yeah, he did, exactly. Elena Schneider joins us at our comfy table here on the Bill Press Show. She's the campaign reporter for Politico on Twitter at EC_Schneider. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Aren't you just thrilled that you're here on a day where we're discussing Donald Trump's penis?
It's not what I thought when I said I would come on yesterday afternoon, but nonetheless, here we are. So let's go.
Let's just go with it. I mean, why stop?
My goal is just to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible.
Well, there was some talk
hour.
about some interesting conversations with editors and reporters about how do we handle this? How do we talk about it? Like manhood versus just briefly alluding to it and do we put this in the headline?
Well, CNN pulled no punches. Did you see right after the debate, they sent out a breaking news alert that literally said Donald Trump defended the size of his penis?
Well, Huffington Post, I think their headline at the end of the night was cockfight.
Oh.
So
there you go.
There was no subtlety in that.
Do you have to beep that? Do you have to bleep that? We have to drop that?
It's fine.
No, we're fine with that.
Good.
All right. I mean, I had, he had to school me on the regulations coming into this morning because who knows?
That must have been a fun conversation at 6 a.m.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
It was a lot of fun.
Here are the
fun
guidelines.
is a good word for it.
Yeah. Elena, you made a good point right before we got into the hands conversation, which is a lot of people have taken this election to be the year of the outsider, the year of the anti-politician, the anti-incumbent. But on Super Tuesday, where the Donald won, 7-8 states, right, you also had incumbent members of Congress hold on to their seats. Nobody lost a race there. So what's going on? There's always been this interesting tension between the top of the ticket and people saying, we need change, we need big change. But when it comes to their own member of Congress, not so bad.
Look, it is a fascinating dynamic. The day before Super Tuesday, I was talking to people in Texas, and they were genuinely anxious about what might happen and how their incumbents were going to hold up. There are a number of different races where, Pete Sessions, Kevin Brady, who's chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, an incredibly powerful guy, were all spending tons of money and we're very nervous about what was going to go down. And, arguably haunted by the ghost of Eric Cantor.
Oh, yes.
And none of that panned out. All of them were able to hold their seats. In fact, none of them were even particularly close. So I get on the phone Tuesday night and I say to, their consultants and their pollsters saying, what's going on here? And they were all sort of saying, everything about this goes against conventional wisdom. Everything about this and this idea that we are in these anti-incumbent outsider times would say these primary challengers would be doing so much better and this would be a moment for them to harness. But instead, all of them lost. And in fact, when one consultant was polling people on several of his clients in Texas and compared how a Rubio voter versus Trump voter felt about their congressman, it never changed. Basically, they, hate Congress, but they love the guy that has been in their district. And, when I spoke with the executive director of the NRCC yesterday, or 2 days ago now, he was saying, we're running good individual races, and they're still speaking to the issues of the frustration and exhaustion with Washington. And as long as those members keep doing that, clearly it still seems to be working.
So in some sense, John Kasich last night had this theory that Republican and certainly general election voters to some extent probably are very fed up with politics, are very fed up with the establishment, and so they're electing these anti-political, anti-establishment candidates, and when those candidates can't get anything done, they're even more frustrated, and so now they're looking to Trump, and that's kind of the cycle: anger, can't get anything, and so you go more extreme. Why is that, though? I mean, why does that dynamic, which we so see on the national level, I mean, governors with so much experience had to drop out early because of Trump. Why isn't that trans? Is it because on the local level, these members aren't seen as part of the bigger problem? Are they seen as fighting the fight? But they've been there for so long.
I think it's two things. I think it's first that there's a certain amount of, they are probably doing a relatively good job, clearly, of showing that their voting record isn't, establishment, quote unquote. But also, a voter can't vote somebody out if they don't know who the opponent is. Everybody knows who is presenting the alternate option on the presidential. Everybody knows Donald Trump. His name ID is, out of this world. But compare that to a primary challenger in a district in Houston or in San Antonio who's competing in those media markets, who would have to spend a ton of money to get their name ID out there. That's a much harder hill to climb, and it's easier now that we have more money in politics, that there are more outside groups who can come in and help these people. But that's certainly something that they don't have. They don't have this celebrity apprentice sort of launch them into being able to better criticize those incumbents.
Now, the question, of course, becomes, what does this mean for Donald Trump's coattails? Should he be the nominee? You saw last weekend an extraordinary article in the New York Times where Mitch McConnell is apparently telling his fellow Republican senators, we're going to have to break with Trump. If Trump's the nominee, we got to save our people, those senators who are vulnerable. They can't attach themselves to this guy and win. The results of Tuesday go against that theory.
It does to a certain degree. I think what we're, the places that we saw vote on Tuesday for congressional primaries were Texas, Alabama, and Arkansas. Those aren't exactly places where Obama has done well. Whereas if you look at the larger Senate map, top 10 races, 8 of those are Republicans, and most of those are places where Obama won. So you're dealing with an interesting sort of confluence of factors here where you've got an incredibly conservative, potentially top of the ticket, with a group of senators who were all elected in a wave election in 2010, some of them defending it for the first time in places where Obama did really well, or better than Mitt Romney. So those two things coming together means that Mitch McConnell's looking at that map and saying, let me be realistic here about how we're going to be able to address this. And given what happened on Tuesday, maybe he won't need to go quite as far as putting daylight between those two. But I mean, I imagine somebody like Mark Kirk, who's already calling for
Senator from Illinois,
who's already sort of saying, yes, we should probably consider a Supreme Court nominee under Obama, which of course is breaking with Mitch McConnell. I imagine he would not be supporting Donald Trump. I wouldn't want to put words in his mouth, but I would imagine he would, that would be something he would break with. So
Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who is up for re-election in Iowa, who has said no to even meeting with a nominee, despite saying yeah, let's have an up or down vote in years past, got a Democratic challenger.
He did. Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Someone who they think may give him a little scare. I mean, he's very popular in Iowa. It's very difficult to take Chuck Grassley down. He goes to all 99 counties and seems to have a very powerful constituency ground game. But at least, there's this effort, because the polls show that particularly in those places, like we mentioned, Illinois, Pennsylvania, even in Iowa, most voters say, hey, you got to at least give a nominee a hearing. Do you think you'll have more senators breaking with McConnell's kind of dictate that came down right after Justice Scalia, news broke that Justice Scalia died, as as those numbers, I think Toomey I think Toomey's favorability numbers, the senator of Pennsylvania, dropped some 10 percentage points over probably over this SCOTUS question. I mean, they must be looking at this and saying, let's at least meet with the person Obama nominates.
I think they're definitely looking at it and looking at their own circumstances and what they need to do for their specific races. But President Obama is forcing was starting to try and force their hand even. I mean, by floating the name of Governor Brian Sandoval of Nevada, who is a pro-choice, super, moderate Republican as a potential nominee, sort of was saying to Mitch McConnell, hey, it was really challenging him there. Of are you really going to reject taking a look and hearing a Republican potential nominee? So I think that they're all trying to play this game of chicken to see sort of where, as things sort of start to lay out, how they're going to need to fall in relationship to November. But we still have many months before that happens.
I mean, the exciting thing for me is that you're now seeing this 8-year strategy of obstruct crumbling. The very fact that voters, yes, in these more swing states, are kind of saying this is too far. You got to at least meet with this guy. You got to Congress, the Supreme Court. These institutions have to function. And the fact that last night Donald Trump talked about flexibility and talked about maybe having to he clearly openly said, I've changed on the question of visas for high-skilled workers coming into America. Right. And Republican voters still said in poll after poll, he won the debate. I mean, this is good news, folks. This is good news. If we can finally have a real conversation about how you get things done in America through politics, through compromise, hey, maybe that's one thing, despite the hate, maybe this is one thing Donald Trump has done to improve our political conversation. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. The Bill Press Show with Alana Schneider, campaign reporter for Politico. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
Chappaqua, New York. This is The Bill Press Show.
48 minutes
Like that?
after the hour. That's a new one.
You like that?
It's actually an old one, but it's
Jamie
kind of relevant
plays it.
again.
It's relevant, yeah.
Because a contractor who set up the email server for Hillary Clinton was granted immunity by the FBI. And so, that story continues.
As it will, I'm sure, through November.
Oh, yeah.
Elena Schneider, campaign reporter for Politico, is still with us. Certainly over the next few weeks, probably next week, maybe the week after that, the president is going to name his Supreme Court nominee. And there's some belief that this will be somebody Republicans have already bear hugged, either voted for unanimously or said very nice things about. So it's going to be a little harder for them to obstruct hearings and obstruct even meeting with this person. How do you see this playing out? I mean, as we move forward, do you expect the president to kind of take the nominee by the hand and to go around and meet with these senators, kind of forcing them to do this? I mean, that would be a great media spectacle. Either the president or Biden doing that. Could you imagine Biden and the nominee walking into Grassley's office and saying, hey, come meet with this person? I mean, that'd be really... How strong do you think the White House is going to push to make this a big story for them?
I think that they're gonna push as hard as they need to because they want to appoint a nominee. So we'll see how that strategy plays out. I don't know. I can't get into their heads as to how that most effectively might work out. But the poll numbers definitely are in their favor, and that most Americans do agree that they should be putting forward a nominee and that the Senate should be listening to them. So I think as far as a campaign and election issue, they can definitely make it one for these senators.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see Hillary Clinton on one side, Bernie Sanders on the other, with the nominee, and they're holding hands and just walking around the Senate looking for meetings. I mean, that would really be something. That with the president leading the way, saying, at least meet with this person, at least give them a hearing, and then make up your mind. That's what advise and consent is.
Yeah.
Up or down vote. You don't like them, that's fine. Don't approve them, but at least meet with them. I am surprised how little this is discussed in the GOP debates. And, look, I mean, Cruz really mentions it, but it's not a big focal point of their race, which is shocking because they've always felt the court is kind of the real lasting legacy of a president.
Well, I think part of the struggle is that they don't want Obama to be a part of this process. They want the next president to be the one who's putting it forward because presumably it would be a Republican. And that is in contrast with what the Constitution says, and as a group of candidates that say that they are strict followers of the Constitution, that's a complicated situation to find themselves in.
And probably the reason why they don't really stress it is the numbers don't look good on their side. I mean, the fact that they came out and said, regardless, you could nominate Ronald Reagan, you could nominate Jesus, and we wouldn't even care because, somehow the president has 11 months left in office, but that's irrelevant.
Like, part of what Bill has said when he's here is that Republicans are going to realize how bad they look, right? Like, there are going to be Republicans who are up for re-election. And to have to run on this is going to be a really, really bad look. So they're going to come to their senses. But I don't know. I don't think so.
But is it too late? Is the damage done already?
I mean, what would have to happen is you would have to come out and sort of buck your party and say, look, I know Mitch McConnell is doing this, but like I want to get things working. Vote for me, by the way. I want to get things working in Washington, and I can't stand by while we obstruct, blah, 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 right? I just don't think it's going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen.
And McConnell's numbers are really bad in a lot of these states. I mean, the Republicans like to use Pelosi in all of their races as the super-duper liberal person who, do you really want to side with her? I mean, McConnell is kind of toxic all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I think any kind of Republican leadership at this point is relatively toxic. So, be it him or Boehner, and Paul Ryan, I guess, is now managing to escape some of that. But I think all of them have their problems.
I mean, I don't know. To me, if you want to beat Trump, you gotta at least show some kind of level of understanding that this is a party that can really get things done. Or even if you want to elect Trump, you got to show that this is a party that can get things done. Because all they're telling voters now is we're going to obstruct. And so I just don't. I don't understand. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand who they're appealing to. And I don't think they can win a national election just by speaking to the base. This isn't 2004, guys. Like, the demographics of the country are very, very different. You have more Latino voters. You have more African-American voters. You have more women voting. And they're not voting for you because you're not there on their issues. Yeah. So...
Well, maybe they'll take a cue from Rubio and Trump and start doing yoga together. And
breathing exercises.
Find a little more flexibility.
That would be nice.
And see where they end up on that.
Nice. Selena Schneider, campaign reporter for Politico on Twitter @EC_Schneider. And, of course, Politico.com. Lena, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bill Press Show, we'll take a break, and then we'll be back with beer, right? Is beer... Oh, no, beer...
Next hour is
beer. Okay, beer's coming next hour.
Can I stay for that?
You can actually stay for that.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
You taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. Say hi! How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes after the hour and some breaking news as we close out the second hour of the
On
show.
another network, former Senator Jim Webb, was just on. Remember, he ran for president
That's
as
right,
a Democrat.
Senator from Virginia.
He was just on, and he says, quote, "No, I would not vote for Hillary Clinton." But he did say that he was open for voting for Donald Trump. Donald Trump. He would vote for Donald Trump before Hillary Clinton as a Democrat.
Don't rule out that Jim Webb independent.
Jim Webb. Jim Webb, America. Jim Webb. We'll just let that marinate. Jim Webb.
Think about that for a
Think
second.
about that. We're back right after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The real winner of the 11th GOP debate, Megyn Kelly. If you're going to run somebody against Trump, it has to be Megyn Kelly. That's the new rule here on the Bill Press Show for this Friday, March 4th, 2016. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Igor Volsky of the Center for American Progress Action Fund, sitting in for Bill as we dissect all the horror, all the craziness from last night, and of course, tackle the big issues of the day with your phone calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Here with the wonderful Bill Press crew. Peter Ogburn joining us in the remodeled studio.
It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You're doing a hell of a job so far today.
Thank you, Peter. Jamie Benson is taking your calls. There's the Jamie Cam, right? It's not Benson? It is Benson. Please, don't trip me up.
Jamie,
trip me up.
Jamie, what's Benson?
Benson.
Bless up, Igor.
By the way, Ray Rogers taking your calls, and I don't have a prep sheet for this. I just know it so well.
Go ahead.
And Cyprian is running the video cams.
Indeed.
There you go.
You got it.
Cyprian Bolding.
Yeah.
You see?
Cyprian.
You see how I know?
Look at that look of uncertainty.
Yeah, I know.
in Igor's eyes.
I mean, you know me and names. You know, it's really.
Look at the names we booked for you today.
The names are a lot
Wolner,
easier.
Schneider, Wydra.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Next time,
Thank
I'm going
you.
to book you a mayonnaise sandwich.
Yo.
You know, every time, for listeners not in the know, every time I host the show and there are some really hard names to pronounce on these guest sheets, it like comes out of my mouth and I know it's wrong, but because I've already started talking, I have to commit and say it wrong, and it just I want to crawl under the desk here. And everyone here is laughing and making fun of me, and there's nothing I can do. Hey, listen, people, English is my third language, okay? You're lucky I could even say John or Mike or Sam or something.
You do a hell of a job,
Okay,
I should point out.
third language.
With apologies to past guests, Gabriel De Benedetti, which I believe
such a
came
nice
out
guy.
to be Gabe De Benespaghetti,
Gabriel, I had to
and
email
Matt
him after.
Vasilagambros, who was Matt Vagisil-Gambros.
Oh,
That's the best.
so difficult.
That was the best.
And it's hard because as someone named Igor, I shouldn't be mispronouncing anybody's name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All past
And don't
guests,
apologize. I think it's hilarious.
All right.
It's a thing now.
It's a thing,
It's a
but it's a
thing.
good thing. Don't hide from
thing.
it. Don't hide from who you are.
Elizabeth Wydra is the chief.
Widra? Is it
Widra.
Widra?
Oh God, chief counsel at the
Widray.
Constitutional Accountability Center. She joins us now on our newsmaker line. Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to apologize up front for any harm I may have caused you.
Well, you just inadvertently weighed in on, an intra-family squabble about whether it's Wydra or Widra. So,
see
you did
there?
it either
way. Thank
Yeah.
you. During the break, I was asking how to say it, and Peter seemed very confident, but I'm glad that actually, I was right.
There's some debate here.
There's
Good.
some debate here.
This is good.
Yeah, totally. You did a great job.
Thank you. Well, of course, the next big scare for me is if the president nominates, and I'm not even going to try this, and you know who I'm talking about, Suri.
Sri Srinivasan. He's a star. You got to know his name.
I know,
You
but
gotta
it's
know
just
that,
so
Igor.
hard. I'm going to practice. In front of the mirror, I'm going to practice. He's, of course, on the D.C. Circuit Court and is on the short list, we think, to be the president's nominee. Someone who was confirmed, I think, is it true, unanimously in the Judiciary Committee?
Yes.
And received during that hearing lots of praise from one Senator Ted Cruz, who talked about what great friends they are and how he hopes that friendship doesn't derail his confirmation to the D.C. Circuit Court. Do you expect, now we think we're probably going to get a name from the president next week or the week after, do you expect that person to be somebody like Suri, who Republicans are just going to have a really hard time opposing?
The president has said that he intends to nominate someone like his previous two nominees who have, a person who has sterling credentials, who is within the mainstream of the legal community, and who is highly respected, who understands the way that the law works, the way that it works in the courts and in the real lives of the American people. And so, there are actually a whole number of people that he could choose for that. There are wonderful judges like Judge Srinivasan who have had unanimous confirmations. Judge Shane Kelly has also been mentioned. But, whether it's one of those two or someone else, I have no doubt that President Obama, because this is what he's done in the past and what he's done in the lower courts as well, will nominate someone who really is above reproach when it comes to being qualified. And, I have to say I am so deeply, deeply disappointed. I suppose perhaps not surprised, but deeply disappointed in the Senate Republican obstruction tactics, because it's one thing to say, we obviously have the right and duty to reject nominees if they're appropriate nominees. Absolutely, the Senate has that right. But to say we're not even going to play, we're just going to opt out of governing and not give one of these surely to be sterling credentialed nominees even the process of giving them a hearing. Some of them have even said they won't even meet with the potential nominee, although there is dissension among the Republican ranks on that. That is really just, appalling and unprecedented.
I went through the congressional record and I Googled up or down vote in Mitch McConnell and discovered that in his 31-year Senate career, Mitch McConnell called for an up or down vote on a judicial nominee 28 times, saying that every nominee deserves an up or down vote. Chuck Grassley, who's the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, called for an up or down vote 27 times during his 35-year career as a senator. I mean, do these guys just not care that the hypocrisy is so glaring and clearly glaring to the American people who are saying, one, just read the freaking Constitution you think you care about and you say you care about all the time, and B, just meet with the person.
Right. Exactly. And I think there is pressure that's going to be put on these senators. I mean, certainly Senator Grassley is already feeling this in Iowa, because the American people want the Senate to do its job. And I think what's particularly appalling here is we've seen this gridlock in Congress, and, the Supreme Court gets higher approval ratings than any other branch of government. And I think part of that is because they actually do their job, whether you agree with their decisions or not. So for the Senate to, transmit its virus of dysfunction to the Supreme Court by saying we're going to force you to be working without your full complement of 9 justices for what could be 2 terms, I think that this is something that has not been emphasized enough. We're not just talking, people are like, oh, well, the Supreme Court can act with 8 justices. Sure, can it has in the past for very brief periods. But what we're talking about here is hamstringing the Supreme Court for deep into 2017. And the way that the court works is it stops, it basically hears cases from October to April and then writes decisions and releases them until the end of June. So let's say the Republicans insist on their obstruction and refuse to consider the nominee by President Obama. Then we have a new president coming in January 2017. You go through the process. You're probably not going to get Supreme Court then until April 2017. That means 2 years, maybe 120 of the most important cases that affect the rule of law in this country. We're talking civil rights, voting rights, climate change, immigration, huge cases relating to business and consumer protections that cannot be properly addressed because when you have a court split evenly 4-4, then the court just affirms what the lower court did and can't set nationwide precedent. So you could have people subject to different laws based on where they live. Their fundamental rights could be given to them differently depending on which state they live in, which circuit they live in, while the Supreme Court is unable to fully do its job. And so for the Senate to be threatening to shut down the Supreme Court for 2 whole terms deep into 2017, that is deeply disturbing. And, they have to focus on their constitutional duty and not on their obstructionist politics and, focusing on trying to delegitimize this president they've been trying to do for so many years. And just, look, we all get up and do our jobs every day. They need to go and look at the Constitution and figure out that the president, in the Constitution, his duty is mandatory. It says the president shall nominate and bind with the advice of the consent of the Senate, shall appoint judges of the Supreme Court. The Senate does not have the right to refuse to do its job and nullify the president's constitutional duty to fill the Supreme Court.
And that argument that you make about not being able to set national precedent if it's a 4-4 decision and having different laws in different places of the country and not having a unified standard on some of these very key concerns that we all have as a country, that's an argument that was made by Republicans back in 2008 when they complained about vacancies on the court, when they complained about the fact that Democrats were not confirming judges as quickly as they would have liked. and also an argument echoed by President Ronald Reagan, who, when he nominated Justice Kennedy in 1987, by 1988, in that State of the Union address, said that the Senate must confirm Justice Kennedy in an election year because we have to have and we have to restore the Supreme Court to its full power so it can act like a fully functioning branch of government and can act in the way the founding fathers, intended it.
And, especially when we're talking about Justice Scalia's replacement, Justice Scalia, whether, a lot of people disagreed with him, he was a textualist, looked at the text of the Constitution. And when you look at the text of the Constitution, the president has a mandatory duty, and the Senate is basically nullifying that clear constitutional command by refusing to do their job. And you're absolutely right. We have had justices who have been confirmed and nominated in election years. That is, there's absolutely precedent for that. And frankly, this whole the people need to have their say line that the Republicans are giving is just preposterous. The people had their say when they elected President Obama. And again, looking at the text of the Constitution, there's no exception in the clause for where it says he has the duty to nominate justices, where it says, except in an election year. He's the president up to and until the very last day of his term, and he has all of the rights and responsibilities of being president up until the very last day of his term, which the American people gave him. And so it's really just unprecedented for the Senate Republicans to say, we think the people need to have their say and the president can't do anything, can't do the things that he is constitutionally required and obligated to do until the next election.
Elizabeth, let me put you in the hot seat here for a second and have you kind of predict how you think this is going to play out. So the president's going to nominate somebody in a week or two. Republicans are going to say that they're not going to hold a vote. It's going to be a story for about a week or two. But then we're going to all turn back to the election, back to Trump, and we're just going to forget about this whole thing, right? I mean, how does this end well for the nominee, for instance?
Well, I don't know that the story is going to go away. I think that, you're going to see, again, I think it's going to be a nominee who has sterling credentials, who is someone who should be given the due process under the Senate general practices of having a hearing and an up or down vote. And so I think that there's going to be, continued efforts, by probably other members of the Senate judiciary who want to have hearings. And then also, frankly, we have a huge term already in process. And as these come out, there was a case yesterday on one of the most important abortion access cases was heard yesterday. In a few weeks, there's a case about the Affordable Care Act's contraception coverage requirement and religious liberty accommodations. And then after that, in April, we'll be having a Supreme Court hearing on the president's immigration executive actions, the DAPA and extended DACA provisions. So, and we've already had hearings on a major union case, affirmative action, voting, representation. And so the Supreme Court is going to itself be providing continual reminders to the Supreme Court of that body's importance. And, one thing I would just point out is there's been some talk about how, the Supreme Court, not all the cases are 5-4. Not every case is going to be in this shorthanded period split 4-4. That is true, but the cases that are most likely to be split 4-4, where you don't have uniform rules across the country, are in these cases that are the most vital importance to the American people. So like race-conscious admissions programs, like abortion, like public unions. These cases are incredibly important, deal with fundamental rights and fundamental ways of living for Americans that are very important. And I think that as the Supreme Court reminds everyone through its term, this own term, I think the story will stay. And we've already seen polls showing that the voters do not like the prospect of the Senate refusing to do its job and give the president's eventual nominee a hearing and an up or down vote. And so I think that, as we're seeing in Iowa with Senator Grassley,
now has a challenge.
The pressure on. Yeah,
Elizabeth,
exactly.
if you were a betting woman, what do you think the odds are that President Obama's nominee will take Justice Scalia's seat on the Supreme Court?
President Obama himself?
No, his nominee. His nominee.
Okay.
Please, let's not go crazy.
I was like, what? because normally I'm not a betting woman, and also I'm bad at math, so like calculating odds not good for me. But that one I could say 0.
Yeah, good. Easy. You're welcome.
Right, but for an actual nominee,
yes.
Again, I'm a Californian. I'm an optimist. I like to think the best about people. I truly hope that the Senate Republicans come to their senses, have a long, hard look at the Constitution and figure out that they need to have process. And because I'm sure this nominee that the president puts up will be extremely qualified and within the parameters of the kind of people who have been confirmed by the Senate before, even when it was controlled by Republicans, I certainly hope that they get it right and do their job.
And a good place to start for the Constitution is the usconstitution.org, the website for the Constitutional Accountability Center, where Elizabeth Widra is chief counsel. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us. Always good.
My pleasure.
Always good to talk to you. Quick break, and then I'm told there's beer. There's beer for me, primarily me, to drink, and I will tell you how it tastes at home in this early morning hour.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show for this Friday, March 4th. A very quick note on the debate before we switch gears. They debated last night in Detroit, Michigan, the home of Flint, where 8,000 children have been exposed to lead poisoning, and the Republicans were asked about this for the second time, I should say, in a debate. It's an issue they've ignored, and it's an issue that they really don't want to tweet about, they don't want to talk about, they don't want to put on their website. Rubio was asked, what would you do? How would you help local government? And he said nothing about infrastructure. He said nothing about helping these local communities, giving them more federal funds, and that is a shame. Good thing they were asked about it, but you heard zero solutions about the number one problem facing the state of Michigan. It's a disgrace.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. the American Nile.
The canyon maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 33 minutes after the hour. The Bill Press Show continues on this March 4th. It's a Friday, and as you'd imagine from our discussion about the debate and hands and all that kind of thing, would you blame us? Would you blame us if we have been led to, forced to really hit the bottle a little early this morning? I mean, for Jamie, it's a little late, but for the rest of us,
that's right.
Starts at 6. For the rest of us, it's early. But here we are with Mitch Meller, Assistant General Manager of Pinstripes in Georgetown, yes, and Justin Cox, CEO of Atlas Brewery. They are here to promote a wonderful event, the first annual Brewers and Bocce Tournament. It's on March 12th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have tweeted out all the information about how you can get tickets. Guys, tell me more about what you're raising money for.
Well, we partnered with Zero. It's a national nonprofit for fighting prostate cancer. We partnered with them because we were, it's one of those causes that really hits close to home with our company and with, neighbors in the community. So we wanted to get everyone together in Georgetown and really raise awareness and funds to fight this.
Fighting prostate cancer. Now, there's going to be all kinds of different beers here that I have listed. 3 Stars Brewery, Atlas, DC Bra, Dogfish Head, Devil's Backbone. I mean, you can get I'm sure all this information on the link that we have tweeted out. And before me is a beautiful array of beers. Now, tell me what we're looking at here.
So we brought 2 beers today. This first beer is called District Common. It's one of our flagship beers at Atlas Brewworks. It is a California Common style lager.
I like me a good lager.
Yes, sir. So what California Common means that it's a lager yeast that we ferment at higher temperatures and are more common to ale fermentation. So it's kind of a nice hybrid between the 2 major styles. Still get a lot of kind of clean crispness from the lager yeast, but some of kind of the fruity notes from the higher fermentation temperature.
Okay. And the second one here?
The second one, this is called NSFW. It's the acronym for Not Safe for Work. So this is
that. Which I have after this.
Perfect for 8:30 in the morning.
That's great.
So this is a limited edition beer that we did right when we first launched the brewery about 2.5 years ago, and have done it sporadically since, but we just did our first limited canning run of this. So we canned 100 cases, some of them available at the brewery and the rest kind of at the Whole Foods throughout D.C.
Now, is the alcohol content higher here? Is that why it's not safe?
Absolutely. So the alcohol on the District Common is 5.1%, which is nice and approachable and
seems
sessionable.
Appropriate for 8 a.m.
And the NSFW is 9.2%.
9.2. Wow. Jamie's got really excited.
But this is you said how many were made?
We made 100 cases this round.
So this is an exclusive right here.
This is an
We're getting
exclusive.
an exclusive taste.
All right, so let's
show.
pop these open. Yes. It's a great sound.
Nothing better than
Nothing
the sound
better.
of a beer
And here he
cracking
is
open.
pouring it into the glass that I'm going to taste. It's just for me.
I have a question though when it
Yes.
comes to, because I've always heard that beer keeps better in cans than they do in bottles. Is that correct?
That is absolutely true. So craft beer in general is going more towards cans, and for many good reasons, the most of which is it's way better for beer. So when you bottle a beer or when you package a beer in any method, light and oxygen are the two enemies of the beer. It starts to deteriorate the flavors. And so even in a brown opaque bottle, you will get some light that goes through that glass and some oxygen will creep up through that crown cap. But in a can, once you put the beer in the can and you seal the top, nothing's getting in there that wasn't in there to begin with.
Makes sense.
It's also much lighter, and so we're using less fossil fuels when we ship the beer around, and there's less breakage, and it's just a better package for beer all around.
So you recommend that our progressive listeners, you guys, only buy the beers in the cans?
Absolutely.
It's the progressive thing to do.
It
gives you better beer. Okay, so now when I drink beer, this is going to be very stupid, but I apologize. Do I have to do anything to it, or I just drink it? I can just drink it? There's no motion. I can just drink it.
Just when you're tasting anything, you try to use your nose first. Your smell is your first the first process of your taste.
Yes.
So give it a nice whiff, and then I always swirl it around a little bit, probably just out of habit, but I think it helps some of the gas escape from the beer, and that it lets the aroma travel to your nose, and then taste.
See, Jamie, this is a very logical
You weren't
question.
entirely
not all
wrong.
of us, not all of us drink all day. We know this. I don't know.
I just
turned 21.
I get it to go down as quickly as possible.
So this is meant to be a pretty approachable lager. We're using a little bit of Czech Sots hops in there, which is a traditional Pilsner hop, but it's definitely not a hoppy beer. That's just to kind of counteract the malty sweetness a little bit.
I really like this. You could really taste the sweet notes. I really like that it's not hoppy because I'm not a big fan of the hoppy beers, and it feels. Jamie, listen, we're trying to have a conversation. Okay,
Please.
We know what you like. But I really like it. To me, I really like beers that are, I don't know if, I guess have more an even flavor profile.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a hoppiness and it's just it cuts through my taste buds, that to me I don't like. So beers like this, I feel like I can have a lot of them, which I enjoy, especially at 8:30 in the morning. But also I can have it. I can pair. I feel like the pairings are far more extensive than if I was to have a really sharp beer that would taste strangely with whatever it is I'm eating.
Absolutely. We try to focus on balance in our beer. So even if a beer is hoppy, like you'll see with the NSFW, it's still well balanced with kind of the malty sweetness and not too strong on any one flavor profile.
So you brew this here in D.C.?
We do. We're over on West Virginia Avenue Northeast in Ivy City.
Ah, I see.
So we've been open about 2.5 years, and we're the only solar-powered brewery in D.C. We've got a big solar array on the roof, which should offset about 100% of our electricity throughout the year, which is a great thing for a brewery because we use a lot of energy heating things up and cooling them down all day long.
So then it's no surprise, since you guys have such progressive values, that A, you're on the show, and B, that you've partnered for this kind of cause.
Absolutely, and Pinstripes has been a wonderful industry partner for us since they opened, about 2 years ago? A little bit more than that?
We opened up February 2014, and part of the reason we wanted to partner with all these breweries in D.C., Virginia, Maryland is they were really the backbone for helping us, get Pinstripes off the ground, make a name for ourselves in the community because they were already established. And I will say that District Common was one of our number one selling beers when we had it on draft.
Oh.
We actually just recently went over to the Rowdy Rye, which is a hoppier. I'm sorry to say, may not be your favorite, but it's definitely
I've had the
mine.
Rowdy Rye. I'm a fan.
Shockingly, fan. Jamie has had it. Yeah,
Jamie and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I like Jamie.
Thanks, guys.
So at Pinstripe, if I go to Pinstripes, I can drink the beer and play bocce together.
Yes. Oh, yes. We offer full entertainment and dining, so we have not only a 75-seat restaurant, but 14 indoor bowling lanes, 6 indoor bocce courts, and an outdoor patio with a fire pit that looks right over the canal.
Where have I been? Jamie, how come you've never taken me?
Well, you're not a beer guy, so no, I'm kidding. I haven't been either. I want to go.
Yeah, no, we should go. This sound. I don't think I know how to play bocce. I'm just trying to imagine what it is in my head.
So I played it
a little bit.
I played it once. I played it once at Vinoteca here in DC. But we should definitely get do we have a breakdown of bocce? Do we have a basic
rules
of bocce?
Video?
Oh yes. All of our staff are trained in all the rules. We can give you.
They can walk me through.
They can give you the rundown. But honestly, it's a perfect game to have a beer in one hand, a bocce ball in the other hand. Make up a conversation with some people you just met at the bar, and it's just a great, social sport.
Yeah, you just got to tell them I'm coming ahead of time, really dumb down basic explanations, and for Jamie, of course.
Of course.
So Peter, who's not in studio right now, told me earlier he thinks that bocce is one of those sports, kind of like bowling and golf, where the more you drink, the better you get at it. Is that true?
That is definitely true.
Yeah, I think it's a bell curve.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Okay, so Jamie, when do we have to break? I just need to time the next next
Got
beer.
about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. So I'm just going to take a couple of more sips of this beer because then I want to go to the NSFW. So how hoppy is the NSA? Since it's an IPA, and IPAs are traditionally hoppier, right?
Absolutely. And so we measure bitterness in beers with IBUs, which are International Bitterness Units, and the human palate can taste, it's on a scale from 0 to 100, and the 100 is the threshold of the human palate, and the NSFW is at 100.
Now
but as I said, it'll be nice and balanced with the the malt side.
So is it okay? So I kind of feel when I tell people that I like lager beers, I feel like they judge me and they feel like I'm a simpleton and I don't really appreciate the beer flavors, and that somebody who likes IPAs is like a more advanced beer drinker. Is that really the case?
No, I mean, I think that is a sentiment out there, but really in the brewing world, lagers are much harder to make for numerous reasons, and one of them being that lager yeast is a little bit more temperamental, and because of the flavor profiles are so clean and crisp, any kind of flaw that's in the beer is going to shine right through. And so if you have a hoppy really hoppy IPA or, bourbon barrel aged something, those flavor profiles are so strong that they can mask some flaws in the beer.
So really, I'm like consuming the much more sophisticated product. I can tell people that.
You have a taste for nuance.
I have a taste for nuance. Oh, I love that. That's very, listen, on your time, that's pretty good. So hold up here. Let me, my sound here is popping in and out. Okay, let's open the NSFW. I will kind of quickly drink this to prepare myself for the hoppiness, and then I will judge the hoppiness.
This will be a fun segment after this.
This is
call.
very good. Yeah, and by the way, just so everybody knows, should we use a new glass? Do you have to use a new glass for the NSFW? Okay, we're pouring it in now. We're pouring the NSFW into my. Make sure there's none for Jamie. Okay, thank you.
Whoa.
There we go. It's very
I'm waiting
dark.
patiently over here.
It's very dark. I know it's so hard for you. Okay, very dark beer. By the way, so I'm just going to have a little bit of this. I have a full day of work. I have a lot of meetings. We'll see. All right, we'll see how this goes. Here we go. I am tasting it now. I will report back.
It looks like diesel fuel.
That's actually one of the pairings on the can.
Hold up. You know what? Actually, it's funny. It doesn't taste very hoppy or bitter to me. It's like... I feel like it sticks to my tongue, which I like, and it actually has a full flavor, and it doesn't have that one note that I really hate. So I actually like this, and I generally also like darker beers. So I like both lagers and darker beers. I don't know what that means, but this is, now I feel the bitterness.
Yeah.
After, it takes a little bit for the bitterness to kick in.
So this beer, we tried to really showcase the dry hop on the beer, which is a hop addition we do at the very end of the process, which is meant to impart only the aroma from the hops and not the bitterness necessarily. But it's pretty heavy with Amarillo, Centennial, and Zythos hops, which gives that kind of nice sort of citrusy, fruity aroma to the beer.
Oh, man, I really
and then
like
balanced
this.
out
I didn't want to like
with
this.
the malty backbone there.
I really like this. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then maybe on the other side, they'll teach me how to play bocce, or maybe I'll Google it and figure out what it is. Your calls we will not take, so I will not even give out the number because we're too busy drinking, and I don't know if Ray can even press the buttons at this point. Back in a moment, the Bill Press Show. If Jamie gets some beer, it's going to be a good day for it. We'll see. We'll see if he deserves some beer. We'll be back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
49 minutes after the hour, topping off 2.5 hours of debate analysis with some beer, of course, and gave Jamie some as well. Here he is. There you go, Jamie Camp. Thank you. Joined in the studio by Mitch Meller, Assistant General Manager of Pinstripes in Georgetown, and Justin Cox. He's the CEO of Atlas Brewery and kind enough to bring these two beers here, the District Common, which is a common style lager, and the NSFW, a double black IPA, and we're sampling these delicious brews. They're here to promote an event to help raise funds to fight prostate cancer. It's on March 12th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's the first annual Brewers and Bocce tournament over at Pinstripes, and we've tweeted out all the information about how you can get tickets, drink this beer, and play bocce, which over the commercial break I was researching of what exactly this is. And why don't you kind of just give us the basics of the game and why it pairs so nicely with beer?
Well, the basics are you have about a softball-sized bocce ball, and we have indoor courts. You toss out a Polino, which is just Italian for small ball, and you try to get your bocce balls as close as you can to the Polino by either ricocheting off the sidewalls, hitting other bocce balls out of the way, or blocking your opponent. So, obviously, with one softball in one hand, there goes a beer in the other hand. Perfect pairing right there.
That is a really good pairing, especially if it's an Atlas beer. Listen, if somebody, someone who's not particularly coordinated, I know it's going to surprise you, and isn't like particularly the best, the most athletic person, how long do you feel like it would take me to get good at this game? Like, how many times would I have to go to your establishment to really be comfortable, to be king, let's not comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable.
King for a day.
King for a day. I want to beat everybody there. I mean, how good is the clientele? Like, what's my competition like?
I'd say about 4 beers, right?
Yeah, I'd say give or take 4 beers.
4 beers.
And again, there are courts of all skill levels. You'll very quickly find yourself at the beginner court, the intermediate, or the expert. So we have, levels of play for everyone, and everyone at the staff is more than willing to help with rules, being the referee, and every once in a while, to break up a little confrontation. It does get pretty competitive there.
So now, why bocce? Are you like some bocce champion?
No, I wish. It was just a great pairing ever since the idea of Pinstripes came in. to fruition, we decided to do bowling, which is an American pastime,
Yes.
and bocce, and a European Italian pastime. So all of our cuisine is Italian American. All of our wines are actually Italian American. So we try to stay true to theme in that way.
Wait, so there's bowling at Pinstripes too?
14 indoor bowling lanes. We actually, it's amazing when you walk into the restaurant. To this day, I still get people saying there's bowling here because
Right.
you're immediately hit with, tile ceiling or tile walls with hardwood everywhere. And we actually soundproofed all 14 bowling lanes. So when you're in the restaurant or you're at the bar drinking a beer, having some of our great food, you have no idea that there's 14 bowling lanes in the back.
So what you're saying is we could do a live radio broadcast from your bowling alley. Because if it's
Exactly.
soundproofed, we're good.
I mean, we have a couple leather couches you can relax on, a glass of wine, a couple more beers, and I think it'd be a very entertaining show.
Oh wow,
It's happening.
This is happening. I mean, I have nothing to do this weekend, so I will hone my skills, drink Atlas beer, bowl, and try this bocce thing, and see how it goes. Because this actually sounds like a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And in DC, I feel like there's actually limited sports opportunities that you can mix with alcohol.
Yes, and
So-
also safely.
Responsibly, yeah.
Responsibly, which is really the only kind of sport I like to do is if it's mixed with alcohol.
Balance.
And yeah, wow. I will. Okay, so I have some of the NSFW left. How much more should I drink if I haven't had any food at all this morning, and I have a slate full of meetings right after this?
I would say that at least the rest of that glass. How much is left in the can here?
No, you
That's
cannot.
good
give me-
advice.
Cannot give me the rest of the can. But this is really delicious. Tell me about some of the other beers you brew at Atlas. What else can I get?
So the three flagship beers that we have District Common, which we tried today. We have Rowdy, which is a hoppy rye ale. It's not really in the traditional category, but it's kind of hopped like an IPA. Has a nice sort of spicy bite from the rye malt that we use. And we just released a third flagship called Ponzi, which is our American IPA. And that's all about showcasing the Mandarina Bavaria hop. So our dry hop is a combination of Mandarina Bavaria and Cascade hops. So it's got a nice sort of kind of mandarin fruit aroma to it. And we make a beer for the Washington Nationals. It's called the 1500 South Cap Lager. And so we're
Lager.
just right up your alley.
Right up my alley.
So we just brewed that up for this baseball season, or shipping it over there later this month.
It all sounds delicious. Mitch Meller, Assistant GM of Pinstripes, and Justin Cox, CEO of Atlas Brewery, thank you so much. Check out Brewers and a Bocce Tournament March 12th from 10 to 5 p.m. Check out our Twitter for how you can get tickets. We'll be right back to close it out here on The Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift, my sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift, World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift, grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show. The beer guys have left. And
smells like a tavern in here.
Smells like a delicious tavern.
I feel right at home.
By the way, if you go to Twitter and you look at Jamie's Twitter feed, he has been beer shaming me this whole time that I've been trying to drink beer with his mom.
He's a hateful guy.
Yeah, telling her that I know nothing about beer, that I don't have a taste for beer. That it's really quite something.
Here, to be fair, you probably know more about vodka than I do.
Well, that's probably true.
You're Russian.
Well, maybe if one
I tell you all you need to know about
vodka.
It tastes like water.
Yeah.
What kind of vodka have you been drinking?
Vodka doesn't taste like anything.
What kind of vodka have you been drinking?
Vodka doesn't taste like anything.
Well, listen, maybe one of these days you'll schedule a little vodka drinking.
Vodka tasting.
We'll have a conversation. We'll
I'm
bring
down.
some Russians in.
I'm down
who
for
I can really bond with.
I'm here for that.
I mean,
Let's
come
do it.
on. All right, Bill Press Show closing up this March 4th.
Is the
Bye-bye.
Bill Press Show.